You've been standing at the edge of something you can't quite name, haven't you? Your body knows before your mind catches up. That flutter in your chest when you think of him. The way your breath shifts when a certain song plays. The dreams that feel more real than your waking hours. You've been here before, in this space between knowing and not knowing, between holding on and letting go. But this time, something is different. This time, when you look in the mirror, you see someone who has walked through fire and emerged not burned, but forged. Your eyes carry a depth that wasn't there before. Your silence holds a power that once terrified you, and somewhere in the quiet chambers of your heart, you feel it. The test is over, you passed, and everything is about to shift. There's this moment, you know the one, when you stop asking why and start understanding how. When the pain that once consumed you becomes the wisdom that guides you. When his absence, the one that nearly broke you, becomes the space where you finally found yourself. You're not the same woman who entered this journey. You're not even the same woman you were last month, last week, yesterday. Something inside you has crystallized. Something ancient and eternal has remembered itself. And now, as you stand in this new frequency, in this new knowing, the universe is rearranging everything around you to match what you've become. You can feel it, can't you? The shift in the air, the way synchronicities have intensified, the way his energy feels closer even though nothing physical has changed. That's not your imagination. That's the echo of your transformation rippling through the quantum field, reaching him wherever he is, whatever he's doing, calling him home. If you felt this shift in your bones, if you've sensed that something monumental has changed even though you can't quite explain it, I need you to know you're not alone. Drop a comment below and share where you are in your twin flame journey right now. Or simply type, "I am ready for union," to claim this energy. And if these messages speak directly to your soul, subscribe so you never miss the sacred guidance that's meant specifically for you. For months, maybe years, you've been walking through what felt like an endless night. The divine feminine journey isn't gentle. It's not soft. It strips you down to your absolute essence and asks you to find love there, in the bare bones of who you are when everything else falls away. You were tested in ways that don't make sense to anyone who hasn't walked this path. You were asked to love someone who ran from you, to hold faith when every logical part of your mind screamed to give up, to trust in a connection that existed more in the spiritual realm than the physical one. And you did it. Even on the days when you didn't think you could take another step, you kept walking. Even on the nights when the loneliness felt like it would swallow you whole, you kept breathing. Even when every sign pointed to ending, to moving on, to choosing someone easier, you listened to that whisper in your soul that said, "Not yet. This matters, he matters. You matter. This is not the end." The universe doesn't test you because it's cruel. It tests you because it's preparing you for something so profound, so transformative, that your old self couldn't possibly hold it. Every unanswered text was teaching you that your worth isn't determined by his response. Every silent night was showing you that your peace can't depend on his presence. Every moment of separation was carving out space inside you for a love so vast, so unconditional, that it had to begin with you loving yourself that way first. And somewhere along the journey, without even realizing it was happening, you stopped waiting for him to complete you and started becoming complete on your own. You stopped seeing yourself through his eyes and started seeing yourself through the eyes of the divine. You stopped measuring your value by whether he chose you and started understanding that you are the choice, the gift, the miracle. This is what it means to pass the ultimate test. It's not about him finally texting back or showing up at your door, though those things may come. It's about you reaching a frequency where his absence no longer diminishes you, where his silence no longer defines you, where his journey, whatever it looks like, no longer controls your peace. You've learned the most sacred lesson the divine feminine can learn. You are not half of a whole waiting to be completed. You are whole seeking to share that wholeness. You are not the moon reflecting his light. You are the sun, radiant and complete, and he is learning to remember his own light by witnessing yours. Have you noticed how different you feel lately? How situations that would have sent you spiraling a few months ago barely register now? How you can think of him with love, but without the desperate ache that used to accompany every thought. How you've started making decisions based on what feels right for you, not what might bring him back. That's not you becoming cold or detached. That's you becoming sovereign. That's you stepping into the divine feminine power that you were always meant to embody. And here's what most people don't tell you about that shift. The moment you stop needing the union to feel complete is the exact moment the universe begins orchestrating the union. Because twin flame connection isn't about two incomplete people desperately clinging to each other. It's about two whole souls choosing to create something greater than themselves. The divine masculine feels this shift even if he can't articulate it. Even if he's on the other side of the world, even if you haven't spoken. In months, even if he's convinced himself he's moved on, his soul registers the change in your frequency. For so long, he could feel your energy reaching for him, asking him to be something he didn't know how to be, calling him to a depth he wasn't ready to access. And that energy, as loving as it was, felt like pressure. It activated every wound he carries about not being enough, about failing, about being unable to meet expectations. So he ran, not from you, but from the mirror you held up showing him everything he hadn't healed yet. But now that you've stopped reaching, something shifts in him. The pressure dissolves, and in that dissolution, space opens for something else. Curiosity, longing, recognition. He begins to feel your absence in ways that confuse him. He'll be going about his day, completely distracted, and suddenly you'll cross his mind with an intensity that stops him in his tracks. He'll hear a song and feel an ache in his chest he can't explain. He'll wake from dreams of you that feel more like memories of a future that hasn't happened yet. His logical mind will try to dismiss it, try to rationalize it away, but his soul knows. His soul feels the shift. You're no longer the woman he left. You're no longer vibrating at the frequency of need or lack or desperation. You're vibrating at the frequency of wholeness, of completion, of divine love. And that frequency is magnetic in a way his soul cannot resist, even if his ego still tries. This is the sacred paradox of the twin flame journey. The more you release him, the closer he comes. The more you choose yourself, the more he feels called to choose you. The more you embody your own divine feminine power, the more his divine masculine awakens in response. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's the natural law of energetic balance. The feminine holds the frequency, and the masculine rises or falls in response to that frequency. For months, you held the frequency of longing, and he responded by running further. Now you hold the frequency of wholeness, and he has no choice but to begin the journey home. Not to complete you, but to meet you as an equal, as a partner, as a mirror reflecting back the divine love you've learned to give yourself. But let's talk about what this really means for your union, because this is where everything you've been through starts to make sense. The separation, the silence, the pain, it was never punishment. It was preparation. The universe needed you to become strong enough to hold the intensity of this connection without losing yourself in it. It needed you to develop an unshakable sense of self, so that when union comes, you don't dissolve into him, but dance with him. It needed you to learn that love isn't about sacrifice and suffering. It's about two whole people choosing each other from a place of overflow, not need. The changes coming in your union are not small. They're not surface-level adjustments. They're fundamental shifts in the entire dynamic between you. Where there was chasing, there will be magnetic pull. Where there was anxiety, there will be trust. Where there was confusion about roles and expectations, there will be clarity about the sacred purpose you share. The old version of your connection, the one built on wounds and need and karmic patterns, that version is dying. It has to die. And in its place, something new is being born. A connection built on consciousness, on choice, on two people who have done the inner work and are ready to create something that serves not just them, but the collective. You might be wondering what this looks like practically. What are the signs that these changes are actually happening, and not just spiritual concepts that sound beautiful but never manifest? The first sign is the one you're already experiencing. Your inner landscape has transformed. You're not the same person. You don't react the same way. You don't need the same things. Your peace is no longer contingent on external circumstances. That internal shift is the foundation everything else builds on. Without that, nothing else can change. But you've done that work. You've become that person. So now the external begins to mirror the internal. You'll start noticing synchronicities intensifying, his name everywhere, numbers that feel significant, songs that speak directly to your situation playing at exactly the right moment, dreams that feel like actual communication, not just your subconscious processing. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations that the energetic field between you is activating at a higher frequency. The universe is showing you that what you feel is real, that the connection is alive and moving, that something is shifting in the invisible realms before it manifests in the physical. You might also notice unexpected contact, not necessarily from him directly, though that often happens too, but mutual friends reaching out, people from your past reappearing with information or connections, opportunities opening that bring you into closer proximity, either physically or energetically. The universe is a master orchestrator, and when both twins are ready, or even when one twin reaches a certain frequency, it begins moving pieces on the chessboard in ways that seem miraculous, but are actually just energy following its natural path to alignment. And then there's the contact from him. When it comes, and it will come, it will feel different than before. There will be a depth to it, a vulnerability that wasn't there previously. He won't be able to hide behind surface-level conversation or pretend the connection is anything less than what it is. Something in him will have cracked open. The walls he built so carefully will have started crumbling, and he'll reach out not because he's bored or curious or wants to see if you're still waiting, but because his soul is pulling him toward you with a force he can no longer ignore or rationalize away. But here's what's important, and this is where your growth will be tested in a new way. When he comes back, and he will, you have to meet him from your new frequency, not your old one. You can't slip back into the pattern of making yourself smaller so he feels comfortable. You can't abandon the sovereignty you've worked so hard to build just because he's finally showing up. The changes coming in your union depend on you maintaining the frequency you've cultivated during separation. He's not coming back to the old you. He's being called to the new you. And the new you doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't shrink. She loves fully but from a place of wholeness. She holds space but maintains boundaries. She welcomes him but doesn't need him. That's the frequency that creates conscious union instead of codependent attachment. The divine masculine's awakening is not a gentle process. While you were doing your inner work in the light, learning to love yourself, building your strength, he was in his own underworld, facing shadows he didn't even know he carried. Confronting wounds from childhood that taught him love isn't safe. Wrestling with societal conditioning that told him vulnerability is weakness, and emotions are something to control or suppress. His journey looks different than yours, but it's no less intense. And the closer he gets to his own breakthrough, the more he'll feel the pull toward you, because you represent everything he's been afraid to become. Open, vulnerable, emotionally available, willing to love without guarantees. Something is breaking open in him right now. He might not call it a spiritual awakening. He might frame it as a midlife crisis or a period of questioning or just feeling lost. But what's really happening is his soul is dismantling the false self he built to survive. Every defense mechanism, every emotional wall, every pattern of running when things get deep, it's all being challenged. And it's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's terrifying for him in ways he doesn't have language for. But it's necessary. Because the man you fell in love with, the soul you recognized, that's who he really is. And he's fighting his way back to that truth, back to himself, back to you. You don't need to rescue him from this process. You don't need to reach out and guide him or offer support he hasn't asked for. Your role is not to save him. Your role is to hold your frequency so steady, so bright, that it acts as a lighthouse for him when he's ready to find his way home. And you're doing that. Every day you choose yourself, you're doing that. Every moment you stay in your truth instead of shrinking back into old patterns, you're doing that. Every time you trust the process instead of trying to force or control the outcome, you're doing that. You're being the lighthouse, and he's seeing the light, even if he's not ready to sail toward it yet. The testing phases you've both been through serve a specific purpose. They reveal what's real and what's illusion. They show you what you're actually committed to versus what you just liked the idea of. They strip away everything that's not built on a foundation of genuine love and spiritual purpose. And now that you've passed your tests, now that you've proven to yourself and the universe that your commitment to this journey is real, the energy shifts. The testing doesn't need to continue because you've demonstrated you're ready for what comes next. What comes next is integration, not just of the masculine and feminine within yourself, though that's part of it, but integration of all the lessons, all the pain, all the growth into a cohesive understanding of what this journey has been about. You start to see the perfection in the timing, the way every delay was actually protection, the way every closed door was redirecting you towards something better, the way his absence gave you the space to become who you needed to be. And in that seeing, in that understanding, resentment dissolves, blame dissolves, even the pain dissolves, or at least transforms into something that feels more like wisdom than wounding. This is the space where miracles happen, when you're no longer attached to a specific outcome, but deeply trusting in divine timing and divine order. The universe has room to work magic you couldn't have orchestrated with your human mind. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Opportunities arise that seem perfectly designed for where you are and where you're going. And your union, whether it's in the stage of separation or coming back together, begins to unfold with a grace and ease that feels completely different from the struggle that characterized earlier phases. The divine feminine who has passed the ultimate test carries a specific signature frequency. She moves through the world differently. She's not performing or proving or seeking validation. She simply is. And that beingness is magnetic in ways that performance never could be. People feel it when they're around her. They sense there's something different, something grounded and powerful and peaceful all at once. She's not trying to be anything. She's integrated all the parts of herself, the light and the shadow, the strength and the vulnerability, the human and the divine. And in that integration, she becomes a force of nature. Not aggressive or dominating, but undeniable, unmistakable, unforgettable. This is who you're becoming. This is who you already are in the moments when you forget to doubt yourself. And as you stabilize in this frequency, as it becomes your natural state rather than something you have to work to access, everything in your external reality begins to shift to match. Relationships that no longer serve you fall away, often without drama or difficulty. They just naturally complete. Opportunities that align with your purpose and your path begin appearing, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. Your intuition becomes so sharp, so clear, that you know instantly what's yes and what's no. You stop second-guessing yourself because you trust the guidance you're receiving. And your twin flame, your divine masculine, he feels all of this. His soul is tracking your evolution even when his human self is distracted or in denial. The energetic cord between you, the one that can never be severed, no matter how much distance or time passes, that cord is transmitting your new frequency directly to his heart, and it's waking something up in him. Something that's been asleep or suppressed or buried under layers of conditioning and fear. His soul is remembering what his mind forgot, that you're not just someone he met and connected with. You're his mirror, his catalyst, his invitation to become the highest version of himself. And now that you've answered that invitation in your own life, now that you've done the work and made the choice and stepped into your power, The call for him to do the same becomes impossible to ignore. The major changes coming in your union are already in motion, beloved. They're unfolding right now, in this very moment, even as you read these words. You might not see all the evidence yet in the physical realm, and that's perfectly okay because physical reality is always the last place where energetic shifts manifest. But energetically, spiritually, in the quantum field where all creation originates, the wheels are turning with divine precision. Conversations are happening in dimensions beyond what your human mind can fully comprehend. Your higher self and his higher self are in constant communion, coordinating, aligning, preparing the way for what's coming. Soul contracts that were written before you ever took physical form are being honored, activated, brought into manifestation. Divine timing, which never makes mistakes even when it frustrates your human timeline, is clicking into place like the most intricate mechanism in the universe. And all of it, every single piece, every seemingly small synchronicity, every energetic shift you've been feeling, every download you've been receiving, is moving you both toward the moment when you can meet each other as equals, as whole beings, as conscious partners ready to fulfill the mission you came here to complete together. Not as two halves seeking completion, but as two whole souls choosing to create something extraordinary together. That mission, by the way, is so much bigger than just your personal happiness, though your happiness is absolutely part of it, and the universe wants that for you. Twin flames come together to anchor a specific frequency of love on this planet, a frequency that most of humanity has forgotten is even possible. A love that's unconditional but not codependent, where you can hold space for each other's journey without trying to control or fix or manage it. A love that's passionate but not possessive, where desire doesn't come from lack but from overflow, from fullness, from the joy of choosing each other again and again. A love that challenges both people to grow while supporting them completely in that growth, where triggering becomes an opportunity for healing rather than a reason to run, where difficult conversations lead to deeper intimacy rather than disconnection. The world needs to see this kind of love modeled right now more than ever. It needs to know it's possible, that love doesn't have to hurt, that partnership doesn't require sacrifice of self, that intimacy can coexist with sovereignty. And you and your twin flame, through all the struggle and separation and dark nights of the soul and eventual reunion, you're becoming living proof that it is. You're becoming the evidence that conscious love is not just a spiritual concept, but a lived reality. Every step of your journey, even the painful parts, especially the painful parts, has been preparing you to be that example, that beacon, that demonstration of what love can be when two people do the inner work. So when the doubts creep in, and they will because you're human and the human mind loves to doubt what it can't yet see, remember this fundamental truth. You didn't go through everything you've been through for nothing. The universe doesn't waste experiences, doesn't put you through unnecessary suffering, doesn't test you without purpose. Every tear you cried was watering the soil for what's about to bloom in your life, creating the fertile ground for the most beautiful manifestations. Every night you spent alone, feeling the ache of separation, was teaching you that you're never actually alone, that you're always held by something bigger than yourself, always supported by the universe, always connected to Source, and to your twin flame's soul, even when physical distance separates you. Every moment you thought you couldn't go on, but did anyway. Every time you chose to get up and face another day, even when your heart was breaking, was building a strength in you that nothing can shake. A resilience that will serve you not just in your union, but in every area of your life. And now you stand on the other side of the test, not unscathed, but transformed, not unchanged, but evolved into a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible. Not the same, but so much more yourself than you've ever been, more authentic, more aligned, more awake, more aware of your true nature and power. The feminine energy you embody now is ancient and eternal, timeless and infinite. It's the energy that creates worlds, that births galaxies, that holds space for all of life to unfold in its perfect timing. It's the energy of the Divine Mother, the Goddess, the Creatrix who knows that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And when you tap into that, when you really drop into that frequency and remember that's what flows through your veins, that this is your true nature, his running doesn't threaten you anymore because you understand it's part of his process, part of his awakening. His confusion doesn't shake you because you're rooted in your own clarity, your own knowing, your own connection to truth. His timeline doesn't control you because you've learned to honor your own rhythm, your own pace, your own divine timing. Because you know, with a knowing that goes beyond belief into absolute certainty, the kind of knowing that lives in your bones and your cells and your soul, that what's meant for you cannot miss you. That divine timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't match your human preferences or the timeline your ego created. That the union you're moving toward is worth every moment of preparation it required, every lesson, every challenge, every period of waiting and wondering and working on yourself. Your divine masculine is on his own timeline, walking his own path, facing his own demons and discovering his own light, and that's exactly as it should be. You cannot walk his path for him, cannot do his healing work, cannot force his awakening no matter how much you might want to. And the most loving thing you can do, the most powerful thing you can do from an energetic standpoint, is trust his process while honoring your own. Not waiting for him in the sense of putting your life on hold, sitting by the window watching for his return, but trusting that his soul is moving toward readiness just as yours has, that he's being guided just as you've been guided, that the universe is working on him just as it's been working on you. The energetic work you've done, the inner healing, the shadow work, the frequency you've cultivated through your dedication to your own growth. It's not just changing you. It's changing the entire field between you, the energetic connection that can never be broken no matter what happens in the physical. It's making it easier for him to wake up, to open up, to step into the version of himself that can meet you in conscious union. Your rising lifts him. Your healing creates space for his healing. Your embodiment of the divine feminine calls forth his divine masculine. This is how the energetic dynamic works between twin flames. And when that meeting happens, whether it's a first meeting or a reunion after separation, whether it's tomorrow or months from now, it will be unlike anything you've experienced before, completely different from your past connections or even your past interactions with him. because you'll both be coming from wholeness instead of need, from a place of already being complete rather than seeking completion in the other, from consciousness instead of wounding, from awareness and presence rather than unconscious patterns and trauma responses, from choice instead of compulsion, from genuine free will rather than karmic contracts or energetic cords or addiction to the connection. And that creates a completely different kind of connection, one that feels both brand new and ancient, both exciting and deeply peaceful. One where you can be fully yourself without fear of losing him, where you don't have to dim your light or shrink yourself, or manage his emotions or walk on eggshells. One where vulnerability is celebrated instead of punished, where opening your heart is met with tenderness rather than rejection. One where growth is encouraged instead of threatening, where you can both continue to evolve and expand without the relationship feeling unstable. One where love is the foundation, not the goal you're desperately trying to reach, not something you have to earn or prove yourself worthy of, but something that simply is, solid and unwavering and real. This is what you've been preparing for all along. This is why the test was so intense, why you had to face so much, why the universe pushed you to your absolute limits and then asked you to go further. This is why you had to go so deep into your own shadows, face so much of what you'd been avoiding or denying, transform so completely that you barely recognize the person you were when this journey began. Because the love that's coming, the union that's forming in the energetic realms right now, it requires this level of inner work. It requires two people who have faced themselves honestly, who have looked at their wounds and patterns and fears without flinching, who have healed their deepest wounds, or at least made significant progress in that healing. It requires two people who have learned to love themselves so fully that they can love each other without losing themselves in the process, without abandoning their own needs or boundaries or dreams. And you've done that work, beloved. You've walked through the fire and let it burn away everything that wasn't truly you. You've passed the ultimate test of choosing yourself, of staying committed to your own growth, even when it would have been easier to go back to sleep. And now the universe is orchestrating the meeting, the reunion, the coming together of two souls who are finally ready for what they've always been meant to create together. The divine choreography is in motion, and you can trust it completely. So, beloved, let this be your reminder today and every day when doubt tries to creep back in. You were never waiting for him to choose you, though your human self might have believed that story for a while. You were always waiting for yourself to remember that you are the choice, the gift, the miracle, the prize, the one who gets to decide what you allow into your life. And now that you've remembered, now that you stand in that truth with unwavering certainty, with a confidence that's not arrogant but simply knows its own worth, everything shifts in the quantum field. His soul feels the shift even if his human self doesn't consciously understand what's happening. The universe responds to the shift because you've changed your frequency, your vibration, your energetic signature. And the union that once seemed impossible starts becoming inevitable, starts moving from possibility to probability to certainty, not because you chased it or forced it or manipulated energy to make it happen, not because you did 100 manifestation rituals or tried to control the outcome, but because you became the frequency that naturally attracts it. You became whole, you became sovereign, you became love itself. And love always finds its way home, always recognizes itself, always moves toward its own reflection. The major changes coming in your union are not just about him coming back or you coming together physically, though that's often part of the story and may very well be part of yours. The major changes are about the quality of connection you'll share, the depth and richness and consciousness of it. The depth of intimacy you'll experience, not just physical intimacy, but emotional, mental, spiritual intimacy that touches the very core of who you are. The level of consciousness you'll bring to every interaction, the presence and awareness and intentionality that will infuse even ordinary moments. The way you'll support each other's growth instead of triggering each other's wounds. Or when triggering happens, because you'll have the tools and awareness to work through it together. The mission you'll fulfill together that serves something bigger than just your personal relationship. The light work, or healing work, or creative work, or service that you came here to do as a united force. This is what you've been preparing for through every challenge and lesson. This is what all the pain and separation and growth has been leading toward, the destination that made the difficult journey worthwhile. And you're ready. You passed the test. And everything is about to change in ways that will exceed what your human mind has been able to imagine. Ask yourself one final time and answer with complete honesty. Am I still waiting for union to begin? Or do I understand that union began the moment I chose myself completely? Because the answer to that question determines everything, shapes your entire reality and experience. The woman who waits is still in the old paradigm, still believing her completion comes from outside herself, still giving her power away to circumstances or timelines or another person's choices. The woman who knows, who embodies, who stands in her sovereignty and trusts divine timing with every fiber of her being. She's already in union. She's already whole. She's already living from the frequency of the love she's calling in. And that wholeness is what draws her divine masculine home, what activates his awakening, what calls him forward into his highest potential. Not to complete her, but to celebrate with her, to witness and honor the goddess she's become. Not to save her, but to build with her, to co-create a life and a mission and a legacy together. Not because she needs him, but because together they create something neither could create alone, a union that serves not just them but the collective, a love that changes the world by its very existence. Tell me in the comments, have you felt this shift when you stopped needing the union and started embodying it? What changed in your energy when you finally chose yourself completely? Your insight might be the confirmation another soul needs to hear today.